Jody here, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over my November TBR. As you can tell, I'm a bit late with this video. There's kind of like two reasons for that. I decided last month, that I wouldn't start thinking about the books that I wanted to read for the next month until the previous month was over. And also last month, at the very end of October, I was reading a book and I was very close to finishing reading it. And I just wanted to see for myself if I could finish reading it before November was here, so I didn't have to move it on over to my November TBR. And somehow I was able to finish reading that book just in time before November, was here. And so that book, just in case you're wondering, was called The Resort by Sarah Och. I believe that's how you pronounce the author's last name. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, it was a mystery thriller, and it was quite a long mystery thriller. It's about 424 pages. Eventually, I'll go over my thoughts in a spoiler-free review on my channel at some point in time. I have, quite a few book reviews to get to before I get to that book. But what I'm trying to say is eventually I will make a spoiler-free review on that book. Anyway, moving on now to November. I wanted to read at least one romance this month. Romance is what has become one of my favorite genres. And, I have read some romances throughout the year, just not as many as I would have liked because, like I said in my last TBR video, I've been focusing more the last few months on mystery thrillers because I have a lot of books. And I notice sometimes when I read mystery thrillers, not all the time, but a good amount of the time, like I'll read a book, really like what I read, but don't necessarily feel like I have to hold on to it. Like I feel like I can, donate it and let someone else have a chance to read it. Whereas with like romance and fiction, I tend to love those books a lot half the time when I read them, so much so that I may want to read them again in the future. I don't always necessarily feel that way about mystery thrillers, so that's why I've been focusing on mystery thrillers because, like I said, I have a lot of books and I want to make space, on my bookshelves or my book carts or wherever if I want to buy more books. Because I do like to bookshop still every now and then, even though I definitely don't need to. But you know what? You have to have some enjoyment in life, and that's what brings me joy these days is buying a book here and there, whereas years ago I used to be seeing as many Broadway shows as I could possibly see, but things in my life changed and that's just not something that's a part of my life anymore, sadly. But that's just like how life goes sometimes. So anyway, moving on to the point I was trying to make. Yeah, so I wanted to read at least one romance this month because I love romance. I love romance books. What can I say? It's very surprising. When I first started really reading, again, a few years ago, I didn't really read many romances, and in the last year or so, I started, and I love the genre. Okay, we'll get on to what I'm reading now. I don't think anyone's watching this at this point, so sorry. Sometimes I like to chit-chat, and I don't chit-chat in all my videos, so I was like, why not chit-chat right now if I want to. Anyway, so the romance I chose to read this month was Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy. This is the first book in a 3-book series that all take place in the same beach town of Avalon Bay, which it turns out is not a real town because I looked it up because I was curious. It's a fictional town, but I guess it takes place in like the Carolinas kind of area. But anyway, that book was on my October TBR, and clearly I didn't get around to reading it. And I can be a bit indecisive when choosing what to read, so I just decided to read that as the romance for November. And at this point in time, I literally finished that book this morning. I'll eventually go over my thoughts in a spoiler-free review, but just in case this is a book you're interested in reading, I'll just give like my first impression kind of thoughts on it without giving anything away about the story. So I overall really ended up liking this book a lot. It was just a really fun time. I have to say I went on a bit of a roller coaster with my thoughts on this book because when I first started reading it, I, didn't really like it at all. I didn't really like the male main character, and I also didn't like the premise of what really starts the story. But, as the story progressed, I kind of warmed up more to the characters, and that premise of why the story starts kind of fizzled out. I have yet to read a romance at this point in time that I don't end up liking by the time I'm done reading it. It's just that genre that, I don't know, I always find something to like about when I read a book. So that's, that's good. Now for the rest of my TBR. Other Mistress by Shonda Williams. And this is a psychological mystery thriller that I've had for a while now, a few years now. I think I got it around the time perhaps it came out in bookstores. I don't know much about it. I just know that it's a psychological thriller, and the cover is really eye-catching. So it's on a book cart that I have on the top shelf of the book cart. So every time I pass the book cart, it's like it always catches my eye, this book cover. So I'm like, let's get around to reading this finally. And it's only 288 pages, I believe. So if I'm pretty consistent with my reading, when I read the book, it shouldn't take me that long to read. The next mystery thriller that I'm thinking about reading is called The Quiet Tenant. I forget who wrote it, but I'll have up somewhere on the screen who wrote the book in case you're curious. So I have this mystery thriller bookshelf on one of my bookcases. Is a shelf of all mystery thrillers that I've been trying to, make my way through reading this year. And, so far I've read about maybe like almost 2/3, I think, or I've read about 11 books on this bookshelf, and this is one of the books on the bookshelf. So, and I also heard like really great things about this book. It does sound like a very scary kind of story, but I've heard mostly everyone who has read this book really likes it. So I'm excited to finally pick up this book to read, perhaps in November. And another mystery thriller that I've had my eye on for quite some time now that I have is called The Last to Vanish by Miranda. This to me seems like a very like atmospheric mystery thriller, and I did read a Miranda book a few months ago in July called Daughter of Mine, and that was a really great atmospheric mystery thriller. So definitely excited to read another book by Miranda. And this is actually a book that I got at Barnes & Noble probably almost 2 years ago now. I got it when they had their sale for after the holiday season, where the hardcovers are half off. Yeah, I'm probably not going to participate in these sales anymore because half the time I don't get around to reading these books right away, as you can see. Anyway, this is another book that's on that book cart where I have the book The Other Mistress. It's another book that I see quite often, and I'm like, I should finally pick it up to read. And so I think in November I hopefully will. Okay, so now initially I said I was only going to read one romance this month because I wanted to focus more on mystery thrillers. Trying to make my way through all my mystery thrillers. So I have some books to donate, so I have space for the books that I don't have a place for. Anyway, even though I said that, I do want to have a few romances on my TBR for November, a few more, I should say, just in case, I do end up reading all those mystery thrillers. So romance that I've really been wanting to read, I've heard such good things about it, and I actually bought the book around the time it came out in stores. It's called The Love of My Afterlife. I forget who wrote the book, but I'll have it somewhere up on the screen in case you're curious. This book is also in Good Morning America's book club, and I've heard people say they really like this book, and I feel like it's a book that I'll probably really like even without reading it. I feel like it's a book I'm probably really gonna like, so I'm definitely excited to potentially read this in the month of November. Another romance that I may or may not get to is Bad Girl Reputation, which is the second book in the Good Girl Complex book series by Elle Kennedy. And like I said, I really liked Good Girl Complex, and I actually already have the second book. I don't have the third book, but I already have the second book, so I could read it if I want to. I'm not sure if I want to read it this month, but I thought I'd put it on my TBR in case I was in the mood to continue the series this month. And the last romance that, I may or may not get around to reading this month is called Heartbreaker. It's the first volume in the series, and I think it's called Heartbreaker Volume 1. But this is a very, very well-known YA romance series. Netflix also made a television show, and it's super popular, and I've really been wanting to watch the show, but I really want to read the book series first. And I believe that the television show is the first book is for the first season, so I don't have all the books in the series, so hopefully that's the way the adaptation works, so I can just watch, read one book at a time. Yeah, those are all the books on my TBR, and who knows if I'll get around to reading these. I think I'll hopefully get around to reading at least 3. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of the books that I talked about today that are on my November TBR, or do you have any book recommendations? I always love hearing about what books people really love and recommend. And yeah, that's going to be it for today. Thank you once again so very much for watching. I hope you have a great reading month in November as well. And until next time, bye.